The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Picture this, a lake weeping over a beautiful young man. You've probably heard the old legend of Narcissus, right? This gorgeous guy who spent his days kneeling by a lake, completely mesmerized by his own reflection. So obsessed with his beauty that one day he leaned too far, tumbled in and drowned. Where he fell, a flower bloomed, and people named it the Narcissus. But Paulo Coelho, the author we're diving into today, he stumbled upon a twist to this ancient tale. In his version, the story doesn't end with just a flower. The forest goddesses visit the lake and discover something strange. The fresh water has turned into a pool of salty tears. "Why are you crying?" they ask. "I'm mourning Narcissus," the lake responds. "Well, that makes sense," they say. "You gotta see his beauty up close every single day." The lake goes quiet for a beat. Then it says something that flips the whole story on its head. Wait, was Narcissus actually beautiful? The goddesses are completely stunned. Who else would know? He was literally kneeling at your edge constantly. And here's where it gets beautiful. The lake answers, "I'm crying for Narcissus, but honestly, I never really noticed whether he was beautiful or not. I'm weeping because every time he looked at me, I could see my own beauty reflected in his eyes." Mind-blowing, right? That's how Paulo Coelho kicks off his masterpiece, The Alchemist. It's the perfect opening for a book that's not just telling you a story, but holding up a mirror to your own soul. This book has sold over 20 million copies and been translated into 56 languages. And it's not because it's giving us some revolutionary new information. It's because it reveals the treasure that's been hiding inside us all along. Paulo Coelho himself lived this journey before he ever wrote about it. Born in Brazil, he spent years believing his dream of becoming a writer was completely out of reach. He wandered the world, wrote popular songs, even ended up in prison at one point. He didn't publish his first book until he was 38 years old. His whole life was basically a quest, a real-life pilgrimage that mirrors the story he'd eventually tell. He had to walk his own winding path before he could find his treasure. And that's exactly what we're exploring today. By the time we finish this journey together, you're going to understand the secret a young shepherd boy discovered, traveling from the sunny fields of Spain all the way to the golden sands of Egypt. You'll learn about something called your personal legend, and you'll discover a truth that pulses at the very heart of this book. When you truly want something with your whole heart, the entire universe literally conspires to help you achieve it. Sounds pretty amazing, right? Let's jump in. Book summary. Our story opens with a boy named Santiago. He's a shepherd wandering the beautiful Andalusian countryside of Spain, living a pretty simple life. He knows every single one of his sheep by heart. He knows the fields, the seasons, the patterns of the sun. His whole world revolves around his flock, the books he reads in his spare time, and the freedom to roam wherever he wants. There's only one thing that stirs something deeper in him: the merchant's daughter in a town he visits once a year. He catches himself wishing time would speed up just so he can see her again, feeling something completely new for Hema, the desire to actually stay put in one place. But there's something bothering Santiago. A dream. He's had it twice now, and it's starting to get under his skin. In this dream, a child appears and whisks him away to the Great Pyramids of Egypt, telling him point blank, "Come here, and you'll find a hidden treasure." The frustrating part? The dream always cuts off, right before the child reveals exactly where the treasure is buried. This dream starts humming beneath the surface of his peaceful shepherd life. Finally, he decides to visit an old gypsy woman in the town of Tarifa, who has a reputation for interpreting dreams. After listening to his story, she gives him a straightforward, almost too simple answer. "Go to the pyramids in Egypt," she tells him. "That's where you'll find a treasure that'll make you rich beyond your wildest dreams." Her fee? 1/10 of whatever treasure he discovers. Santiago walks away feeling more than a little let down. even foolish. I mean, did he really need a fortune teller to tell him that? But as he sits in the town plaza, trying to lose himself in a new book, an old man shuffles up to him. The man's name is Melchizedek, and he claims he's the king of some distant land called Salem. Santiago's first thought? This guy's probably just some eccentric old weirdo. But then things get strange. This supposed king knows things about Santiago, his parents, names, the seminary he attended, details Santiago has never shared with a single soul. And it's this mysterious old king who delivers the first major lesson of Santiago's journey. He tells him about something called a personal legend. It's what you've always wanted to accomplish, the king explains. When people are young, everyone knows what their personal legend is. Back then, everything feels possible, and we're fearless about dreaming big. But as we get older, some mysterious force starts convincing us it's all impossible. Then the old king drops what he calls the world's greatest lie. And what's this lie? It's this belief that at some point in our lives, we lose control of what happens to us, and our lives get controlled by fate. Santiago pushes back. That's never happened to me, he argues. My parents wanted me to become a priest, but I chose to become a shepherd instead. Even better, the old man grins, because you genuinely love to travel. Melchizedek explains that realizing your personal legend is the only real obligation any person has. And then he speaks words that will echo through Santiago's entire journey, words that are basically the beating heart of this whole story. When you want something, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve it. The king asks for 1/10 of his sheep as payment for showing him how to find the treasure. He warns Santiago that if you start by promising what you don't have yet, you'll lose your hunger to actually get it. Before leaving, he gives Santiago 2 stones, one black and one white, called Urim and Thummim. Black means yes, white means no. Tools to help him read the omens when he can't figure out what to do on his own. With the old king's words burning like fire in his chest, Santiago makes his choice. He sells his entire flock and buys a ticket to Tangier, Africa. He's crossed the point of no return. There's no going back now. Almost immediately, reality smacks him in the face. Within just a few hours of arriving in the chaotic, overwhelming city of Tangier, where he doesn't even speak the language, he meets a friendly young man who promises to guide him to the pyramids. Trusting this guy completely, Santiago hands over every penny he made from selling his sheep. And in the blink of an eye, in the middle of a packed marketplace, his new friend vanishes into thin air, leaving him completely alone, broke, and stranded in a foreign country. Despair crashes over him like a wave. He actually weeps. He feels like God has it out for him, that his dream was nothing but a cruel joke, that he should have never left his comfortable shepherd life. Sitting in that empty marketplace as the sun sets, he feels like the universe's punching bag. All he has left is his jacket, a heavy book, and those 2 stones the king gave him. But then, as he holds Urim and Thummim in his hand, he remembers what the king promised. He realizes something crucial. He has a choice. He can see himself as a poor victim who got robbed, or as an adventurer hunting for treasure. I'm an adventurer looking for treasure, he tells himself. And with that simple shift in how he sees things, his real journey begins. He needs money, so he finds work with a crystal merchant whose shop sits at the top of a quiet hill, barely getting any customers. The merchant is kind but sad, a man completely stuck in his routines. He has a dream too, a lifelong desire to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, the holy city. But he's never gone. The thought of Mecca is what keeps me alive, the merchant admits to Santiago one day. I'm terrified that if I actually achieve my dream, I'll have nothing left to live for. He'd rather keep the dream safely in his head than risk the reality. Santiago sees in this merchant a mirror of what he could become, someone who lets fear completely shut down their dreams. So he doesn't just work at the shop. He breathes new life into it. He cleans every piece of crystal until it sparkles, builds a display case outside to catch people's attention, and even suggests serving tea in those gorgeous crystal glasses. Business absolutely explodes. Santiago learns about patience, about the quiet power of honest work, and about reading omens. He picks up a word the merchant uses constantly, maktub. It is written. After almost a year, Santiago has earned enough money to buy twice as many sheep as he had before and go back to Spain a successful man. He's standing at a crossroads. He could return to the life he knew and be comfortable, or he could push forward toward the pyramids. Egypt is still this distant dream, just like Mecca is for the merchant. He remembers the old king's advice: never stop dreaming, follow the omens. He thinks about this universal language the world speaks, a language of enthusiasm, passion, and purpose. He realizes that, sure, the hills of Andalusia are only 2 hours away, but he's also now 2 hours closer to his treasure. That year in the crystal shop wasn't a detour at all. It was part of his path. He decides to keep going. Santiago joins this massive caravan crossing the vast Sahara Desert toward Egypt. On this journey, he meets an Englishman, a guy completely obsessed with books and studying alchemia, that ancient practice of trying to turn lead into gold. But this Englishman isn't after gold for the money. He's hunting for the secrets of the universe, something he calls the soul of the world. He's traveling to the Al-Fayoum oasis, hoping to track down a legendary 200-year-old alchemist rumored to live there. As they travel together, Santiago learns from everyone around him. The Englishman teaches him about alchemy from his endless stack of books, the elixir of life, the philosopher's stone, the idea that everything in existence is just a manifestation of one single thing. But Santiago discovers he learns more by watching the caravan and listening to the desert itself. He becomes friends with a camel driver, a man who lost absolutely everything in a flood but learned something profound from the experience. We're terrified of losing what we have, the driver explains, but that fear just melts away when we realize that our personal stories and the history of the entire world were written by the same hand. He teaches Santiago to live fully in the present moment, because life is exactly what's happening right now. The desert, Santiago discovers, speaks its own language. It teaches silence, patience, and the critical importance of paying attention to signs. He starts understanding that the world speaks this universal language, one that doesn't need words, understood through omens and gut feelings. Then their journey hits a major snag. Rumors of brutal tribal wars force the caravan to stop indefinitely at the magnificent Al-Fayoum oasis, this sprawling city of tents, wells, and palm trees sitting in the middle of nowhere. The oasis is neutral territory, a safe haven, and it's here that Santiago's journey takes its most profound turn. The Englishman is desperately searching for the alchemist. While they're looking, Santiago approaches a well to ask for directions. And there, he sees a young woman named Fatima. Time literally stops. In that single instant, he understands the most important part of the language of the world, love. He knows with absolute certainty, a certainty that shakes him to his core, that she's the woman he's been waiting for his entire life. And somehow, she knows it too. It's a love that needs zero explanation, a love older than the desert itself. Maktub, it is written. He tells Fatima straight up that he loves her and wants to marry her. He starts thinking that maybe she's his treasure. Maybe this war, which seemed like a disaster, was actually a blessing that brought him to her. He could easily stay at the oasis forever and be happy. But Fatima is a woman of the desert. She understands that men have to follow their dreams. The dunes get changed by the wind, but the desert never changes, she tells him. That's how our love will be. She insists he continue his journey. If I'm really part of your dream, she says, you'll come back one day. Her words test everything he believes about love and commitment. He learns that real love doesn't trap you, it sets you free. One day, while watching two hawks flying overhead, Santiago has this sudden violent vision, an army attacking the oasis. It shakes him to his bones. An oasis is supposed to be neutral ground. Attacking one violates the most sacred traditions of the desert. He remembers the old king's advice, always pay attention to the omens. With serious courage, he tells the tribal chieftains about his vision. They're skeptical, naturally. Why would the desert reveal something like this to some random stranger? Because I'm new to the desert, Santiago answers. I can see things that people used to the desert might miss. The eldest chieftain, a wise man who remembers the story of Joseph in Egypta, another stranger in a strange land who could interpret visionanza, decides to take the warning seriously. The men of the oasis prepare for battle, but the chieftain gives Santiago a chilling ultimatum. For every 10 enemies they kill, Santiago gets a piece of gold. But if no attack happens, they'll kill him instead. The next day, his vision comes true. A legion of warriors attacks the oasis, only to be met by the fully prepared men of Al-Fayoum. The oasis is saved. Santiago becomes a hero and gets named Counselor of the Oasis. That evening, an intimidating figure emerges from the desert. A horseman, dressed completely in black, with a falcon perched on his shoulder, rides up in a whirlwind of dust and sound. He holds this enormous, curved sword to Santiago's forehead and demands to know who dared to read the flight of the hawks. Trembling but somehow feeling strangely joyful, Santiago accepts his fate. He's about to die pursuing his personal legend and for the woman he loves. I only read what the birds wanted to tell me, he says calmly. They wanted to save the oasis. The horseman lowers his sword. He was testing Santiago's courage. Courage, he says, is the most essential quality for understanding the language of the world. Santiago has just met the alchemist. The alchemist tells Santiago he'll guide him the rest of the way to the pyramids. But Santiago's torn. He's found love, wealth, and status at the oasis. Why should he leave all that behind? The alchemist paints a brutally honest picture of Santiago's future if he stays. Sure, he'd be happy for a while, but that unfulfilled dream of his treasure would haunt him forever. The omens would eventually stop speaking to him, and Fatima would carry the weight of knowing she held him back from his destiny. Love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend, the alchemist explains. If it does, it wasn't true love in the first place. Santiago gets it. He says goodbye to Fatima, promising he'll return, and rides into the desert with the alchemist. As they travel, the alchemist doesn't teach through lectures or books. He teaches through action and silence. He teaches Santiago to listen to his heart. Wherever your heart is, that's where you'll find your treasure, the alchemist says. At first, Santiago's heart is anxious and fearful. It talks about the pain of leaving Fatima behind and the danger of dying in the desert. Tell your heart, the alchemist advises, that the fear of suffering is always worse than the actual suffering, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes searching for its dreams. Santiago listens. He and his heart become friends, and he learns to trust its wisdom. His heart grows peaceful, content to simply exist in the moment, connected to the soul of the world. Their journey hits its ultimate test. They get captured by a heavily armed tribe. To save their lives, the alchemist makes this absolutely wild claim to the tribal chief. "This boy is an alchemist," he announces. "He understands the forces of nature. He's going to transform himself into the wind." The chief, intrigued but skeptical, gives them 3 days. If Santiago fails, they both die. Santiago is absolutely terrified. He has zero idea how to turn himself into the wind. "There's only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve," the alchemist tells him gently. "The fear of failure." On the third day, with the chief and all his men watching, Santiago climbs a cliff. He looks out at the desert he's come to know and love, and starts speaking to it. He asks the desert for help, but the desert says it can't help alone. He needs to ask the wind. He speaks to the wind, who's proud, and says that a man and the wind are completely different things. But Santiago explains they were both made by the same hand and share the same soul. He talks about love, the force connecting everything. The wind, unable to grasp love, tells him to ask heaven. So Santiago speaks to the sun. The sun understands the soul of the world, but even it says it can't turn a man into wind. Speak to the hand that wrote everything, the sun advises. And so, in complete silence, as a furious sandstorm rages all around them, Santiago reaches out to the hand that wrote all of creation. He doesn't speak. He prays a prayer without any words. He understands that everything of the desert, the wind, the sun, himself, is part of one massive design. He reaches through to the soul of the world and sees it's part of the soul of God, and he sees that the soul of God is his own soul. In that moment he understands that he, just a simple shepherd boy, can perform miracles. When the storm clears, Santiago is standing on the opposite side of the camp. He's become the wind. The chief and his men, completely in awe of this power, let them go with an armed escort. Near the pyramids, the alchemist stops at a monastery. There, as a final lesson, he takes a sliver from a yellow glass egg, the legendary philosopher's stonia, and transforms a pan of lead into solid gold. He divides the gold, giving a piece to the monk, keeping a piece for himself, and giving 2 pieces to Santiago, one to replace what he lost to the general, and one as a backup, just in case. Finally, Santiago is on his own. He rides the last few hours, and, under the glow of the full moon, he sees them, the solemn, majestic pyramids of Egypt. He falls to his knees and weeps, his heart practically bursting with gratitude. His heart whispers to him, "Pay attention to where you're brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is." Where his tears have fallen, he spots a scarab beetle, a sacred symbol of God in Egypt. This is the sign he's been waiting for. He starts to dig. He digs all night long, but finds absolutely nothing. Just as he's about to give up, he gets attacked by a group of refugees from the tribal wars. They beat him brutally and steal the piece of gold the alchemist gave him. When he screams that he's digging for treasure from a dream, they laugh at him. But before they leave, the leader turns back one last time. "You really shouldn't be so stupid," he says. 2 years ago, right here on this exact spot, I had a recurring dream too. I dreamed I should travel to the fields of Spain and find this ruined church where shepherds sleep. I dreamed that if I dug at the roots of a sycamore tree in the sacristy, I'd find a hidden treasure. But I'm not dumb enough to cross an entire desert because of some dream. And then they're gone. Santiago gets to his feet, and his heart is bursting with pure joy. He looks at the pyramids, and they seem to be laughing at him, and he laughs right back, because now he knows exactly where his treasure is. In the epilogue, Santiago returns to that small, abandoned church in Spain where his journey first began. The sycamore tree is still there, right where he left it. He digs at its base, and his shovel hits something solid. It's a chest overflowing with Spanish gold coins, precious stones, and golden masks. He had to travel all the way to Egypt to learn from a stranger where the treasure was buried, right where he started. The journey was absolutely necessary. Without it, he never would have known to come back and look. As he gazes at his treasure, a warm wind starts to blow. It's the levanter, the wind from Africa. It carries the scent of a perfume he knows intimately, and the touch of a kiss that's traveled across the entire desert to find him. He smiles. "I'm coming, Fatima," he says. Commentary. So what does this beautiful, deceptively simple story actually teach us? It's a fable, an allegory, and honestly, its lessons are as vast as that desert Santiago crossed. But if we had to distill its wisdom into a few core truths you can actually carry with you starting right now, here's what they'd be. First up is this concept of the personal legend. This isn't just about goals or ambitions. Coelho describes it as your one true obligation in life. It's that deep calling you've felt since you were young, before the world started telling you it was impractical or impossible. The Alchemist is basically a love letter reminding you to listen for that call. What's the dream that keeps showing up in your life? That's not random. It's a roadmap. And the book gives you permission to believe you're actually worthy of that dream. The second major lesson is about the journey itself. Santiago's treasure wasn't just that chest of gold. It was who he became while searching for it. He had to learn the language of the world, listen to his heart, understand love, and face his deepest fears head on. The treasure was really just the excuse to begin the journey. The real reward was the wisdom he picked up along the way. This is powerful stuff for anyone who's laser-focused on just reaching the destination. The detours, the setbacks, that year working in the crystal shapa, those aren't obstacles blocking the path, they are the path. This brings us to the third lesson, the role of love. How often do we convince ourselves that our responsibilities to the people we love are holding us back from our dreams? The Alchemist flips that script completely. Through Fatima, we learn that genuine love isn't about possession, it's about liberation. It doesn't chain you down. It gives you wings to pursue your legend, knowing you've got a home waiting for you. As the Alchemist puts it, love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. If it does, it wasn't real love to begin with. So how can you actually apply this timeless wisdom to your life? Starting today. Begin by asking yourself one simple question. What was my dream before I was told what I should dream? Think back to when you were younger. What did you want to do or be? That's usually where your personal legend is hiding, waiting for you to remember it. Next, start paying attention to the omens around you. This doesn't mean you need to look for mystical signs in the clouds. It means noticing the coincidences, the unexpected opportunities, the people who show up at exactly the right moment. The universe is constantly speaking to you. The real question is, are you actually listening? And finally, take one small, courageous step forward. Santiago's entire epic journey began with a single decision: to sell his sheep. What's your version of selling the sheep? Maybe it's signing up for that class you've been thinking about, having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, or simply buying a book on a subject that's always fascinated you. The universe can't conspire to help you if you're just standing still. You have to take that first step into the unknown. That was our journey through The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We've explored the major themes and followed Santiago's transformation from shepherd to adventurer. But here's the honest truth. A summary is like looking at photographs of a beautiful country. The real magic happens when you decide to actually travel there yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular scene or a simple phrase from the book connects with something deep inside you in a way you never expected. This podcast is designed to help you figure out if this book is a journey worth taking for yourself. If anything we've talked about today has stirred something in you, I really encourage you to grab a copy and experience it firsthand. Reading it isn't just about absorbing ideas, it's a genuine experience that can change how you see yourself and the path stretching out before you. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this exploration valuable, it would honestly mean the world if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.